Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone to today's Shri Īśopaniṣad sessions. There are 18 mantras and we are on 12th mantra. And 12th mantra in purpose being divided into two. And we have already covered one. We will very briefly recap and then we will move on to the second one, which is impersonalism, which we started last time. So this is all due to Srila Prabhupada's mercy, all the hard work he put together. Let's take the blessings from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Oh. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnanajnanशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथवितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सवादूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखावितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य श्री प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। गुरुदेव महाराज की जय। जय जय श्री राधेश्याम। Hare Krishna, everyone. So good to have you all. And in Shri Īśopaniṣad, where we are now, we have been doing the mantras from the beginning. There are 18 mantras. We are on 12th mantra. And in the mantras itself, there are many different themes which we have been going through. And the theme which we have now is, and if we go to the themes which we are dealing now is the right and wrong way of doing upasana, the worship. So we have seen in the past the spiritual vision, the right and wrong vidya, the knowledge, the understanding, but now based on that knowledge, based on that understanding, how to do worship. And the very first mantra, mantra 12, is the one we have been doing. And Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, who put together the purpose in the paragraph forms, where the first three paragraphs talks about the demigods, and then the transition from demigods to the second topic, which is impersonalism. So there are two topics, demigods and the impersonalism or impersonalists who follow the philosophy of impersonalism. We have seen many examples. We have seen the example of Vallabhacharya, who used to be a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva suggested that he should be the devotee of the Lord Krishna, and then he put the Sampradaya together. And then Keshav Kashmiri in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a mention when Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji was known as Nimai Pandit. Then we saw that how Keshav Kashmiri was a great devotee of Saraswati ji, and Saraswati ji came into the dream and said, you cannot beat Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji because he's my Lord. He's actually Lord of my Lord. And then we have seen the example of Chandidas, whose brother was a Vishnu Bhakta. So a flower which was mentally offered to Vishnu and then offered to Durgaji, she appeared and she said, Vishnu is the Lord of my Lord, Shivji. So hence today you have offered me Mahaprasad, something which has already been offered to Krishna, to Vishnu. And then we have seen many different references, but what it says about the worship of demigods in Bhagavad Gita, 720, 721, and then how Krishna helps to uplifts one's consciousness. So to start with, if you would like to worship, so it says, endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires, but in actuality, the benefits are bestowed by me alone. So Krishna himself is saying this in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 7, that different people from based on different background, different experiences, are attracted towards different demigods. And even though they think they are getting the benefits from demigods, but I am the one who is giving the benefits through the demigods. And this has been explained even more detail. Many different other verses are also there. So this is another one from chapter 9:21, where it says that those who worship based, either whether you do the pious activities or you do the material gain worship, so the worship to the demigods, but the desire is not spiritual, desire is still material. And this is very important to understand, that there are different ways of doing it. And then we moved on to impersonalists. And we did discuss that there are many more different types, but these are the two main types which Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji mentions. One is Mayavadis and one is Brahmavadis. So Mayavadis, it's an offense what they do to the form of the God, because they say form of the God is also illusion. Brahmavadis, they don't say much about the form of the God. What they say that we are attracted toward Nirgun Brahman. So I'm attracted to Nirgun Brahman, and I'm not associated. I don't have any say for the personality of the God. So I'm not going to criticize that because I don't know. I'm just attached to the impersonal form of the Lord. And this is what Brahmavadis. So they don't recognize the personality of the Godhead, but they don't criticize it. Mayavadis, they criticize. And coming from, if I take the side of Mayavadis will not actually criticize this, but yes, so Mayavadis are also from Advaita. There could be many more. Buddhists could be Mayavadis as well, but they are basically Shunyavadi. And we have seen the example of how the Vedic Karma Kanda started, and then Buddha came, Shunyavad, and then Advaita, Adi Shankaracharya ji, and then Ramanujacharya ji, Vishisht Advaita, a special kind of Advaita. And then Madhvacharya ji came, who said there is no Advaita, there is no one, there is a duality everywhere. And following from Madhvacharya ji, then we go Gauriya. which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji. Achinta, Bheda, Abheda, Achinta Tattva, which is simultaneously same and different. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji, the way he explained the philosophy we all follow now in ISKCON or even in Gaudiya Math, that all the living entities, we all are same as God, so which is very similar to Mayavadis, but we are only same in quality. Krishna is Satchitananda, and being Om Purnamada Purnamidam, we are also Satchitananda. But in quantities, we cannot be Bhagavan. What Mayavadi says, that we could be Bhagavan. And they say we cannot be Bhagavan. Some references are given, 724, 9, 14, 15. So if we see that, we can see that this is Ichha Dvesha Samuthena Dvanda Mohena Bharata Sarvabhutani Sammoha Sarge Yanti Parantapa. So this is where Krishna says to Arjuna, O second of Bharat, O conqueror of earth, all living entities are born into delusion. This is very important, in delusion. Bewildered by dualities arise from desire and hate. So we desire something, and because we desire something, we follow it and we neglect everything else. We have such a great desires for something, we forget everything else. And the hate, it's not that we desire one thing and we neglect the second. We hate second so much that we can't see one or third or anything. We just hate something. And this examples we have seen in the material world. For example, Hitler, for some reason, some unknown reason, I would say there are some propagandas, but some unknown reason, he hated Jews so much that he just wanted to get rid of all of them, which was, of course, crime against humanity. But this is the duality. Either we desire something like material sense gratification that we forget the spirituality, or we hate something so much that we forget that it's morally right or wrong. And this is one of the reasons Prabhupada and Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji says that this is the reason why people start following Mayavad. Because they say you are Bhagavan, which means you don't need to bow down to anyone, you don't need to surrender to anyone, there is no devotion, there is no bhakti, you just bow down. So you don't need to bow down to anyone because you are Bhagavan. This is what Mayavadi says, which of course Srila Prabhupada condemned. Then in Bhagavad Gita, verses 3rd, 4th, and even 5th, so well, if I read the translation here, which is, but those who fully worship the unmanifested, so this is Advaita, manifested is where you can see the form, unmanifested you can't see, that which lies beyond the perception of senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal concept of absolute truth. So this is like the definition, the attributes, the qualities of impersonal Brahman. This is also part of Krishna, but this is impersonal part of Krishna. For example, we have the fire and we have the smoke coming out of fire. So as we say, there is no smoke without fire. So what is the essence of smoke? That the fire is there. But even when we say the smoke, even when we see the smoke, we can't see fire, but we can guess that there must be a fire somewhere, and that fire is the source of this smoke. So this is the way Srila Prabhupada explains that if we see impersonal Brahman, which is Upanishad is full of, that everything is based on impersonal Brahman, we also accept it as Vaishnav, but we know that the basis of this impersonal Brahman is Bhagavan. So this is form and Hare Krishna. Okay, Kana has just posted something in the chat, but it has come directly to me, so nobody else can see. But yes, Kana has shared the translation of 724. Yes. Thank you, Kana. So this is what we are discussing here. You're right. So by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. So who understands impersonal Brahman, they equally, and this is the definition of Paramatma, that they equally disposed to everyone. So we see Paramatma in everyone, we see Bhagwan in everyone, and then we start working towards everyone. For those whose minds are attached to unmanifested impersonal feature of Supreme, advancement is very troublesome, right? So the word is klesho. Klesho dhikka taras tesham. So tesham, those who follow this path. So 12, 34, so 12, 3 and 4, these two verses explain those who follow absolute truth, those who follow impersonal Brahman. And the next verse says, those who follow this, it's very troublesome. Remember one thing, it never says that it's wrong. Impersonal Brahman is spiritual. Impersonal Brahman in oneself is complete itself. Nobody can say that smoke is not complete. Smoke is complete, but it's a smoke. It's not fire, right? The source of the smoke is fire. Smoke is complete. There is nothing wrong with the smoke itself. Similarly, there is nothing wrong in impersonal Brahman. Those who are enlightened, they realize impersonal. And of course, those who will get to the Dhamma and realize the Krishna's personality itself, they will automatically get the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, if somebody will see smoke, might not be able to see the fire, but if somebody sees the fire, chances are that the person will see smoke as well, because the smoke is originating from the fire. You see the fire and you see the smoke. Similarly, you see Krishna and then you realize the impersonal Brahman as well. Remember what impersonal Brahman is? In very simple form, is the state of consciousness. It's that state of consciousness where we believe and we trust and we act that we are spiritual, we are not material. That's the realization of impersonal Brahman. That's what Buddha said, that I'm awake. I'm awake means now I know all these material things, they're not real or they are temporary. They are not real in a sense that they are not worth enjoying. They are not worth wasting your time for. They are not even worth crying for. They are not worth getting attached with. So this is what Krishna is saying regarding impersonal Brahman. So advancement is very troublesome. It doesn't say that the person, well, actually in the previous verse, if we see, it says, at last achieve me, at last, which means after a lot and a lot of hard work, after a lot of kaleshu, after a lot of hardship, the person will reach me. If, of course, persistent, consistently, diligently will work hard, will reach me. But it's very hard. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Embodied in a sense that because we are materially engrossed, it's very hard to control our senses. Hence, Srila Prabhupada ji said, rather than controlling the senses, let's engage the senses. This is one of the biggest, well, for me personally, this is one of the biggest differentiator in any other spiritual path and the path given by Srila Prabhupada ji. So most of the spiritual beings, they will say, control your senses. Srila Prabhupada ji said, of course, if you can control, it's great. But with our experiences, we have seen it's hard to control. Hence, let's engage our senses, which means we have the five senses. We have to see. Now, what do we see? If we have to see the movie, let's try to see the spiritual movies. Let's try to hear the kirtan. If we have to study, let's try to study. Of course, academics are important, but let's do the studies of granthas as well. So let's do all that studies. And following on to that, what Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji said, that impersonalism in scriptures is there, but it's transitional, not final. And this is the main thing which we should always remember. Sometimes devotees, Vaishnavas, they say those who are impersonalists, they are wrong. Well, maybe not. But not all the devotees are pure devotees either. Hence, we should respect all the devotees and we should respect all those who are impersonalists as well. Right? Because impersonalism is there in the scriptures, but it's a transition. It's not the final goal. How? In this, from the bottom, the Vedas explain karma kanda and the religious materialism. This is what the when Buddha came, this is what was happening. Hence, the Buddha came to stop all that. Right? Smart Brahmins, we call it. Those Brahmins who just follow on the rites and rituals. Do this, you get that. Do that, practices, this is what you're going to get out of it. Hence, a lot of artis, they have phalustuti. You do this, you get that. But it's all material. And that's why it's called karma kanda. Religious materialism. Remember the difference between religion and spiritual. Religion could be based on what is going to give the materialism. Religious activities could be spiritual, but they could be material as well. But spiritual is something which is beyond, they are transcendental to the material senses. And then Buddha came in between. Then after that, for the Gyan from Upanishad, Adi Shankaracharya ji came and he gave Advaita, which was the transition for those who were there in Karma Kanda. That don't go to the Shunyavad, which is Buddha. Buddhism, they don't even believe in Atma. So, but they said, no, you got to believe in Atma. All right, I just got the message that in 10 minutes the meeting will end. So maybe in 5 minutes we will close and I will request you to join back again, please. So Adi Shankaracharya ji gave this, what says that you got to forget Shunyavad, Atma is there, right? And that's the main thing, and you are Atma. But that was a transition because the people were as low as Karma Kanda. But if you move on to the Bhagavatam, then it says, so this says Jnana Kanda, impersonalism, which is while going from material to spiritual form. But don't stop here. The whole spiritual form is bhakti. So Jnana Kanda, bhakti is very less, but if we are in bhakti, Jnana Kanda becomes part of it. And that's the main thing. So Srila Prabhupada explains Bhagavatam and impersonalism explains Upanishads. And the Upanishads are full of impersonalism and everything is good. Now, very briefly, I will not dwell a lot into it, but Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji explained the bit of history of Mayavad and starting from where it was and how and when it got bad. So medieval spread of Mayavad, like initially when it started from Adi Shankaracharya, the modern boost and twist to Mayavad. This is when the Adi Shankaracharya was gone and the followers were not as spiritual, of course, not enlightened. And they added few things. And then a lot of, not all the Mayavadis, not all, actually, Advaitians, they don't even consider themselves as Mayavadis. They don't, the word itself is not given by them. It's Dvaita. They gave Advaita the name as Mayavadi because Maya is where we say everything is Maya, and they call everything is illusion. That is like a dream. Advaita will say this all is like a dream. One day we will wake up. And Srila Prabhupada said it's not like it's a dream. It's not that it's false because everything is in the dream is false. It's not that it's false, but it's temporary. One day it will go out. And for our understanding, or why I say without contradicting with one another, we say whether it's temporary or whether it's false, we understand one common thing, that it's not the real thing which is going to be there for long. Whether it's false, whether it's temporary, whether it's a dream or whether it's a temporary form, it's not worth spending your life on. That's what we can get, like the common groundings. And those who, of course, got material motivations, even in some devotees we can find like that, they have made a lot of disaster out of it, because they said, I'm not God, you are not God, there is no need to go to the temple, everywhere is God, why do you go? And then some people who were pious, who were doing karma kanda, they stopped it. Though there were other people who were temple going, they stopped it, and they could not realize God, as what Adi Shankaracharya ji said, and they were doing religious activities, they're doing pious activities, they couldn't do it. Hence, it was a disaster for those kind of people. Hence, Mayavadis were classed as very bad by Srila Prabhupada ji. This is another thing which Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji put together, that of course, in scriptures, we have seen some examples that there are some apparent. It's like there are no contradictions, but they appear to be contradictions. Like we have seen a verse, Naduram. So Krishna is not far, Krishna is not near. Krishna doesn't have hands, doesn't have legs, but also run, also walk. And well, somebody who doesn't have hands and feet will how run and walk? Somebody who is near can how be very far? All these kind of things. This is Upanishad's poetic language, which is apparently contradictory. So what they say, impersonalism, they say that there are two things. One is which is true, and one is which is parmarthik. The word used in Sanskrit is parmarthik. It's like there is one vyavaharik and one parmarthik. It's like one is param, one is the absolute truth, another one is true for the behavior, for vyavahr, for vyavaharik, just to interact in this world. That's true. So, but we consider that as false. But we will take it true just because we are playing here. It's like when we start playing a game and we say, we know it's a game and we will just follow the rules of the games, even though we know it's just a game, it's false, but let's just follow the rules of the games. That's what we call vyavaharik. And there are logical problems in it, and we might get it a bit. But yeah, I don't think at our point we need to go into detail there to go so much hard the way Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji said it. So just a couple of more slides. What he said, Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, that why it's dangerous, because they have made hodgepodge khichuri of Mayavad. So initially there was a true Mayavad, but then the khichdi was made out of it. And so the grains, if we say in this, so there is a grain, there is a sugar, there is a spice, and then the envy of Krishna. These four things being added to Mayavad. The true Mayavad was given by Shri Adi Shankaracharya ji, but then these things were added. So grains were there. Grains were the real things, which is from Upanishad, but then social service was added to it, and that social service was taken from Christianity. Then not everyone, because of course there are so many demigods and so many people follow different things, different cultures based on north, west, east, south. People were unfocused, they were divided. So when the Christians came and the modern impersonalists, they said, oh, well, let's follow one, which is nationalism. And Indian independent movement was going on. And they said, okay, how to put everyone together. Let's say, doesn't really matter which demigod you follow, they all are impersonalists. They are all forms of impersonal Brahman. Hence, this impersonal Brahman got a bit of spice of nationalism added to it. And then, of course, there were others who envy Krishna. Of course, those who followed different religions, they didn't want. They said, okay, at least let's take away from Krishna, and then we will move on. So this way, it became very dangerous and a bit of disaster. So why disaster? Because this impersonalism deprives the soul of his natural higher taste of bhakti. So in impersonalism, the names are like Swami Vivekananda, Ananda. So a lot of sannyasis, or most of the sannyasis, based on the way they join, Anand is part of them, but not all those who practice becomes that. But most of the devotees, you see, even a little bit of bhakti brings so much higher taste to their life. And of course, I think we have even just listening to kirtans gives us the higher taste. We forget everything. So material life people start following, and they say, oh, it's more attractive material life because whatever you do is Brahman. Why not? Like Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji gave the example of somebody who was smoking and was giving a spiritual talk. And somebody said, well, why are you smoking? And so if you think about, everything is Maya anyways. So there's no good, no bad, everything is Maya. So whether I smoke or I don't smoke, what's the purpose? This is like first-hand experience of Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. And he said, that's wrong. That's not spirituality. But of course, when people follow wrong kind of spirituality, then the material desires become more attractive. Right, okay. We will get into what Radhe Shyam Prabhuji says, but less than 1 minute left, so I will request everyone to join back again. So we will stop here, maybe take 30 seconds break, and let's join back again from the same link, and we shall resume where we left. Hare Krishna. Look forward to see you very soon. Hare. I think एक लेवल ऐसा आ जाता है भक्ति के अंदर, जो हमने देखा कि हम भगवान को अगर देखते हैं तो एक भगवान है, जैसे एक सूर्य देव हैं, और अब वो सूरज तक हम नहीं पहुंच सकते, लेकिन क्योंकि वो सूरज है, हमको सूरज तक पहुंचने की जरूरत नहीं, सूरज की रोशनी हम तक आती है। और फिर हम ये देखते हैं कि सूरज की रोशनी हम तक आती है तो हमें पता लगता है सूरज है। लेकिन फिर हम ये देखते हैं सूरज की रोशनी सिर्फ हम पर ही नहीं है, सब जगह है, कहीं जाए। फिर हमें ये भी पता लगता है कि कई जगह पे जब अंधेरा हो जाएगा, जैसे रात हो जाती है, तब हम देखते हैं कि सूरज नहीं है। लेकिन तब हमें ये पता लगता है भक्ति के अंदर आके कि एक्चुअली ये हमारी कमी है। हमारी कमी है कि हम ऐसी जगह हैं जहाँ के सूरज की रोशनी इस वक्त पहुंच नहीं पा रही है, लेकिन
दूसरी जगह पे है।
दूसरी जगह है। इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि सूरज नहीं है, कि सूरज की रोशनी नहीं है, कि भगवान नहीं है, कि भगवान की कृपा नहीं हो रही है। इस वक्त इसको कहते हैं हम, प्रभुपाद जी ने कहा, टाइम, प्लेस एंड सर्कमस्टेंसेस। टाइम के हिसाब से, प्लेस के हिसाब से, सर्कमस्टेंसेस के हिसाब से, ऑफ कोर्स हम अगर सोचें तो हमारे प्रीवियस कर्मों के हिसाब से हम ऐसी जगह हो सकते हैं कि जहां पर भगवान की कृपा हमें ऐसा लग रहा है हमारे ऊपर नहीं है अभी, हमारे कर्मों की वजह से। लेकिन वो हम अपने कर्मों का फल भोग रहे हैं। लेकिन जो संत होते हैं वो इस चीज को समझ पाते हैं। अभी हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि जो, जैसे गौतम बुद्धा भी हो गए, वो बुद्धा हो गए, वो इनलाइटन हो गए, लेकिन पता लगा उसके बाद वो बीमार हो गए। तो किसी ने कहा कि भगवान आप बीमार कैसे हो सकते हैं, आप तो भगवान हो। तो ऐसे ही बहुत, जैसे हमारे गुरु महाराज जी हैं, उनकी तबीयत अगर खराब है तो लोग जो डिवोटीज हैं, डिसाइपल्स हैं, वो पूछते हैं कि गुरु महाराज जी, आप तो मतलब आप सुबह शाम रात भर आपने इतने लोगों को भक्ति में लगाया, 50,000 से ऊपर इस्कॉन में, उनसे ज्यादा किसी और हम गुरु महाराज कहते हैं किसी और संत के इतने भक्त नहीं है जितने गुरु महाराज जी ने बनाए। और अभी तबीयत खराब होने के बाद भी वो ट्रैवल करते हैं सिर्फ इसलिए ताकि लोगों को वो और भक्ति में जोड़ सके। उनका कोई मैनिफेस्टो नहीं है, और कोई और डिजायर नहीं है, कुछ और वो चाहते नहीं है, कोई और वो बात नहीं करते हैं। वो हॉस्पिटल में होते हैं तो नर्स से बात हो रही होती है उनकी, तो वो भक्ति से रिलेटेड हो रही होती है। तो ऐसे वो जब चेन्नई में थे तो एक उनकी क्रिश्चियन नर्स थी, तो वो कहती हैं कि मैं इतने टाइम हिंदुओं के साथ में रही, लेकिन ये आपके गुरु महाराज के साथ में थोड़ा टाइम रहने के बाद में इतना सब मेरे को अच्छा लग रहा है कि वो मेरे से जो बात बात करते हैं ऐसा लगता है वो भक्ति में ही है, और कोई बात ही नहीं कर पाते वो। तो लेकिन फिर भी उनके ऊपर शारीरिक अगर हम सोचें तो दिक्कत आती है। तो कैसे? तो किसी ने बताया है कि जैसे हमारे, जैसे अर्जुन थे, अर्जुन के पास तीर थे और उनके पास पीछे, हम तीर कमान कहते हैं, तो पीछे एक आर्काइव जिसके अंदर बहुत सारे उन्होंने अपने बाण रखे हुए हैं। कहते कुछ बाण तो ऐसे हैं कि अगर आप अभी लिया और मार दिया, वो बाण एम पर लग गया और जो भी मकसद था वो खत्म हो गया, मतलब जो कर्म था आपका, वो कर्म आपका फलित हो गया। लेकिन फिर आपने कहा अच्छा अब नए कर्म नहीं बनाने, तो नया बाण आप नहीं उठाओगे। लेकिन फिर भी जब आपने कहा कर्म नहीं बनाने, तब हम मानते हैं आप एनलाइटन हो गए। अब आप कोई नया कर्म नहीं बनाओगे। नए कर्म का क्या मतलब है कि अब कोई डिजायर नहीं है। स्पिरिचुअल डिजायर हो सकती है कि अब भगवान की भक्ति के लिए ही करना है जो करना है, कि जैसे मीराबाई जी ने कहा भगवान के लिए गाना है, सूरदास जी, ये तुकाराम जी, आपने जितने ऐसे नाम लिए संतों के, काम वो भी कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उस काम के अंदर सिर्फ वो सर्विस एटीट्यूड है, या सिर्फ भक्ति के अंदर भक्ति भाव में वो गा रहे हैं, कोई डिजायर नहीं है उनकी। तो वो, कि अब वो कोई नया बाण नहीं उठा रहे। लेकिन ऐसा हो सकता है कि उन्होंने कोई बाण उठा के जब मारा और वो अभी भी एयर में है, बाण अभी अभी तक वो फलित नहीं हुआ, तो जिसको हम कहते हैं प्रारब्ध कर्मा, कि वो कर्मा हो चुका है, वो फलित हुआ नहीं है, लेकिन क्योंकि वो हो चुका है तो उसका फल आएगा ही आएगा, आप रोक नहीं सकते। उस दौरान आप अगर इनलाइटन हो भी गए, तो भी अगर आपने कहा अब मेरे को नए बाण नहीं उठाने, लेकिन वो जो बाण में चला चुका हूं, वो बाण तो जाकर लगेगा ही लगेगा, और उसका फल मेरे को मिलेगा ही मिलेगा। तो वो जो है, ये संत समझ पाते हैं। इसलिए संत कभी किसी और की बुराई नहीं करते। कभी और किसी को अगर कहें कि यार वो तो अच्छा था, फिर उसने गलत काम क्यों किया, उन्होंने कहा अच्छा था, गलत क्यों किया, हो सकता है पुराने कर्म थे जो कि अब फलित हो रहे हैं, या उनके साथ में बुरा क्यों हुआ, वो अच्छा आदमी था। तो भक्ति में आनंद इसलिए भी है क्योंकि आप किसी और को भी क्रिटिसाइज नहीं करते, और आपके खुद के साथ में जब होता है, तब तो आप बिल्कुल ही ध्यान रखते हैं, इतना अवेयर, इतना कॉन्शियस रहते हैं कि किसी और की गलती नहीं हो सकती, मेरी ही होगी। भगवान को इसके लिए जिम्मेवार नहीं बैठाया सकता। तो आपने बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट उठाया, थैंक यू सो मच।
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण। सो मंत्र 12. Now, from mantra 11, we say this mantra 11 describes that one must obtain the knowledge. Remember, 9, 10, and 11 were about vidya and knowledge, understanding the transcendental material conception. Mantra 12 now describes two kinds of peoples who cannot do this, as well as their fate. Of course, if they either they follow the demigods for material desires, or they become impersonal for wrong desires. And then it's very hardship, very, very, very hardship. And it's not a right type of worship. Remember, mantra 12 to 14 is a right type of worship. So the worship of demigod, the impersonal Brahman, these two been mentioned in mantra 12. And they are not, as long as they could be spiritual, they could be the proper worship, if the intention, the consciousness is a spiritual rather than material. And now what is material? Material is when you try to gain something. You say for your body, you say for somebody in the family, you ask for a great university, good promotion, good house. All these things are material. And the same thing for the impersonal. A lot of people, so some sannyasis, they just do this because they know the benefits out of it. So one of the sannyasi I was reading, he said that I have nothing to do with God. I just want to follow this because I know when I will become Brahman, or when I realize Brahman, then I will get a lot of siddhis. I'm interested in siddhis. I have nothing to do with God. So that's not spiritual at all. And this is what is condemned in this mantra. But demigod worship could be spiritual as well. So when Ganesh Chaturthi will come, somebody will pray to Ganesh, and say, Ganeshji, please make me more spiritual. That's a spiritual, not asking anything. Ganeshji, you take the obstacles away. Please take the obstacles away so I can progress further in my spiritual path. That's a spiritual. Worshipping demigod is spiritual. So this way we can understand that how. So impersonalists with their tiny brain power and unintelligent demigod worshippers can't understand the absolute truth. That's the main theme here. That is hard and we can't understand it properly. So Radhe Shyam Prabhuji, as he does, he put together in, this is another beautiful thing, that both Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji and Radhe Shyam Prabhuji, they are great devotees, right? And they have their own style. So Radhe Shyam Prabhuji, he puts together things like this in the flow charts. So we will see the next one as well in a flow chart, which is very easy to understand, everything in one. And Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji on the other side, he will get a lot more in detail in each paragraph, each verse, and he will relate to many stories and many day-to-day examples. So inability to understand absolute truth. Not that absolute truth is wrong, impersonal Brahman is right, but why is it hard? The position of absolute truth, the first thing. And in position, we can see the four elements. So, but the second thing is who can't understand that? So this is true, this is correct. But who can't understand? It's hard to understand. Not that it's wrong, it's correct, but it's hard to understand. On the other side, devotion is very easy. When we say somebody take part in the kirtan, what wrong could happen? Everybody's taking part in kirtan, everybody's dancing. Say, okay, take prasadam. What wrong could happen? Before we eat, just offer to Krishna and then eat. So it's easier and we become humble and it purifies us because it closes, narrow down our ego. And lesser the ego, shorten the ego gets, the consciousness gets purified. And absolute truth, the Brahman realization, to realize that we are spiritual is a purification of consciousness. Actually, it's not that the consciousness is not pure, but it's dusted. So not that it's adulterated, not that something is mixed in it. No, but it's a layer of dust is on top of it. And we just need to take that off. That's it. And that's like the sun is there, the cloud of ignorance is there in between. That's it. And this is when we interact on a day-to-day basis, we realize it. I'm spiritual and things are material. How do I interact with them? And that realization, this is just the attitude shift we have, the consciousness. We become more aware, we become more conscious, we become more happy. And that Satya Chitta Ananda, again, doesn't really matter whether we are healthy or not. Of course, if we are healthy, it's much easier. But even if Swami Ramakrishna Paramans, he had a throat cancer. Swami Vivekananda, I heard, he had troubles as well with health. But by the same time, of course, because they were working very hard for the service of the, well, we see Srila Prabhupada ji, we see all other acharyas, they've been working very hard. At the expense of their own health, they would like to serve others. And that's the reason they sacrifice their health. And even though on the bodily level, it might appear they are suffering, and of course, the pain would be there, but at the same time, they are blissful that they know they are a spirit soul, they are a spiritual soul. And that's very powerful. That's like nothing and nothing could make us remorse. We know we are there always connected to Krishna, always and always. So what's the position of absolute truth? Absolutely independent of anything. Sambhuti. So Krishna is not dependent on anyone. It's not that we will become happy if we will get something. No, we can become happy if we are spiritual. We could be spiritual in all the circumstances. Of course, for us it's hard, but it's possible. It's because our happiness, our blissfulness is not dependent on anything. Krishna is the absolute personality of Godhead. The verse 10.2 is given. And similarly, 14.27 is also there, the last verse of chapter 14, we will see. Source of demigods, sages, and mystics, we have seen. God, Krishna himself has given that I am the one who gives them the benedictions, as we have seen in 17.123. No, sorry, 17.20, 21, 23. Appears by his own internal potency in the form of a man. It's like, it's not that somebody makes Krishna, force Krishna to take. No, Krishna himself has done it. And why? Who can't understand? Those people who are mental speculation, like just who sits back, oh, if this happened, that happened. It's very hard. We have to follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. We have to add the context in it. Otherwise, it will be very hard to understand the scriptures. And sometimes some people, they just pick the scriptures from anywhere and start making sense of it. And on a personal level, I know some people because I have discussions with them. And then I have to say, could you refer to that verse as well? And then see, combine these two together if it makes sense. And then they say, oh, yeah, it does make sense now. So mental speculation, just reading something and trying to make. God worshippers, of course, it could be spiritual, but pseudo devotees. So it's not only impersonal, it's even the pseudo devotees, those who pretend to be a devotee. Why? These three, they are not going to help, right? And there is a way out, and we will see in the next lesson what is the way out, which we have seen, but we are going to go into more detail. So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for your presence and think about it, and we will discuss it next week. With that, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev Maharaj ki jai, jai jai Shri Radesha. Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.